This is Boxing Tickets NI. It is 2024. We're back in a good swing of things. Today to be joined obviously once again with Iain Gaughran. Obviously, Iain, obviously when I put these posts out on Instagram now, people are recommending obviously people for interviews, and you're either bribing somebody or obviously someone's liking listening to you. But delighted to have you on once again for the first time in 2024. I guess obviously I can start off by saying Happy New Year to you.
And you.
Was it obviously good to have we're going to touch into obviously a wee bit on 2023. It's hard to fathom obviously a different year now, but it was obviously good to get a break over Christmas, obviously after a busy year, obviously with the wife and kids at home. It's good to obviously get a bit of downtime, but I guess obviously in the boxing world it never really stops for you either.
No, yeah, it doesn't, but it was nice to be kind of out of the pressure cooker maybe a little bit, because at the end of 24 or 23, obviously there was a couple of big fights and on big shows, and everything that gets associated with that and the implications of winning and losing and all that. So it was nice to step back a little bit, obviously stay in touch with all the lads and keep in touch and pre-plan and kind of take stock as to what was 23 and what is hopefully going to be 24. I suppose 23 was good from just the overall stable progression, and we kind of moved a little bit nicely on the arc and all that. But I think from a results point of view and from an injuries point of view for a couple of the lads as well, probably was a little bit overall a bit of a disappointing year. There was one stage around April time when I think there was the potential for 3 fights in a row. There was, I think, Graham Deco was going to fight Dylan Moore, and that ended up going by the wayside. Jamie was fighting Cronin. It was like, oh geez, we could have Dom was fighting over against Ben McGivern in March. It was like we could have a British Celtic and an Irish champion all within the space of 3 or 4 weeks. And it didn't materialise, and for one reason or another, kind of, I suppose you look back at 23 and think, yeah, good year overall, good new signings, the lads have progressed, but it probably, if you take stock in it and look at it and go, wanted to have a better year results-wise. So hoping for more in 24, and I think we will. I'm really excited. People are starting to peak again, and we've got plans mapped out for a lot of them, or for all of them really. And yeah, I'm hopeful because some of them have the swagger back and some of them are free from injury, and we've got some really exciting kind of fights coming up.
I guess obviously even you, obviously, as a manager of a lot of fighters, you're striving for perfection as well. Everybody obviously wants that sort of the success and everything else, because with success comes even more success. And when you sort of say, overall probably not a great year, I would probably maybe stir the pot for you a wee bit there and say, if you're probably at the start of 2023, or even when you were looking into 2023, they think of fighters having so many opportunities and so much big cards. The end of the year, if somebody said to you, the end of the year, they have 2 year fighters on the 2 biggest cards probably of the year, and Cameron Taylor too, and obviously Conlon and Gill, both in matchroom around the world. Iain Gaughran stables getting get advertisements sort of everywhere. That's probably, I guess the results are probably the one thing that you obviously have to go from. But probably the results, yes, are there, not their degree, but from where the year started, obviously Jimmy Morrissey becoming a two weight, obviously Celtic champion, to then sort of finishing the year. I guess that's boxing, isn't it? You can't just have all the success.
That's it. And like I said, there was good relationships made with very, very big promotions, and everything from my own point of view behind the scenes, I think stock has risen because it has to have established good relationships with, the operations managers and the matchmakers and people behind the scenes in matchroom and that kind of stuff. So, that kind of thing helps when you're trying to get lads and girls up to a level that they're going to be worth it on a matchroom show, for example, and for them to be able to go, he's easy to deal with. Everything was smooth with him. He got this done, he got that done. That can only help. And the fact that the lads are getting to a level now that they're on these big bills, that in itself is a result, For Jamie Morrissey to have come in with zero boxing experience, not a huge amount of combat experience, to where he is now. I know he's disappointed, and we were all disappointed in the fact that he lost the fight on the Taylor Cameron undercard. But to be there and to be mixing on that and fighting on dazn and having a huge big screen and walking out and all that, you know, it can only be a good thing. And win or lose, the lads will look back on these fights and go, Jesus, I fought in the biggest card that almost ever was in Dublin. So, you know, from that point of view, it was great. Just there was a few little negatives over the course of the year that we didn't want to just make better.
Is it good for you in terms of obviously yes, obviously in personal sort of terms, obviously been involved with these shows, but is that the perfect advertisement for you? Is it sort of for other fighters coming through where they see you and getting fighters in these big cards? You know, everybody's always talked about Mark Dunlop, obviously here in Belfast for years, the magic man, always gets things done. He's built relationships with Matchroom, with Frank Warren, with Boxer and everything else. So when fighters know, if someone's looking at turning pro this year and they go, who can I go with that's going to be able to get me opportunities? You don't even have to put your hands up and say, here, I have fighters and Matchroom cards. That's progression for you personally, obviously for your business as the boxing stuff as well. But was that really, really good for you in 2023 at the fact that this is now, you're now going, how many fighters can we get big opportunities in these cards 2024 and 2025?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You know, and it is starting to happen. You know, I get messages the odd time, and every few weeks is, oh, got this. Will you have a look at this guy? Or, you know, this. Oh, I'd like to turn over. What's the story? What do you want to do? And blah blah. So, as opposed to me going searching, it seems to have gone that full circle. I suppose I'm being approached now to see can I take care of people's careers, and it's really it's a nice feeling to be asked and for people to want to put that responsibility on you to be able to kind of guide them and bring them to a place where they've seen other lads go. And it really helps the likes of Graham and Jamie. All the lads speak highly. And as I said to you numerous times, it's all about relationship building, you know, and making sure that there is a trust both ways. Because I don't promote shows. I don't like it's very much a case of working hard and getting the lads the opportunities, but they need to take them opportunities themselves. So it is good, and I think the stable is known now a little bit, and the name is known, which is nice. You know, it's a lot of hard work goes into it. So when you reap the rewards of it, it's, you know, and it's not as though there's huge money in this bloody game, especially at our level. You know, until you start reaching the big shows and start putting on shows, a lot of it is a labor of love. So it's good that people kind of are seeing that, you know.
Do you think it's sort of, you know, just sort of thinking to yourself there again, do you think obviously it's about a year? Was it about nearly a year? Obviously you were helping obviously Mark with his shows, you know, and obviously where you think at the end of the year, and obviously the amount of fighters you have now, I'm trying to count how many fighters you have on my fingers here, and I'm even struggling. Obviously at the start of the year you could have sort of nearly count on one hand, but that obviously progression obviously is massive. And just obviously touching on obviously some of the new signings, obviously one we've talked about obviously off camera quite a few times, that I'm sure you're delighted. Obviously the devil Peter Carr's finally decided that boxing's for him, and probably you're really, really excited. Like, it's a lot of stoppages and kickboxing and stuff as well, and I know he was an amateur boxer and stuff as well, but I'm sure that's one you're really, really excited about getting going now in just under 4 weeks time.
I was talking to him this morning, and I was just messaging back and forth, and I said, what exactly is your record in kickboxing? And instantly, he obviously has it in a note or whatever. It came back to me straight away. So he says, record in full contact, 54 fights, 48 wins, 6 losses, 38 KOs. Best fighter of the tournament at the Waco World Championships. European Olympic Game contender 2023. He won a fight. In his second round fight, he broke his arm in the first round, continued to fight, and only got beaten on a decision. He broke his arm blocking a kick, I think it was. Waco World Champion, Waco Silver World Champion, Waco Bronze, Waco European Champion, Irish National Champion 5 times, WKC World Champion times 5, WMO World Champion times 5. It just goes on and on and on. He's like, you might need a drink of water when you're telling him all this, but like when you list it out, you're kind of going, phew. And he's got a name as being a banger, and I don't want him to go in like he's going to fight all going well on February 9th in the JB promotions. But it really is a case. He's mad to go, and he's mad to just take heads and all that. But it's like, okay, you still need to get that experience. And knowing it now from kind of dealing with matchmakers and having so many lads, people don't want to send journeymen in with fellas who are going to take the head off. A, because they just, no one fancies getting sparked out. B, because they're out for 28 days or 45 days, depending on the knockout. And that's taking money off the table. So we have to be careful. We want to match him with durable lads for the first little while, but like he won't take long, because it always happens with the likes of Jamie and Dave. These kickboxers, all they know is fighting 50-50s and fighting against lads who have records of wins and losses. So it's like, you want to fight against the best. It's a bit kind of UFC-ish. So he's kind of like, well, I'll have my debut and we'll go into it. It's like, okay, calm down. We'll have a few, learn what it is to pro box, learn everything about the game and how you have to approach fights. It's different to going in with kickboxing and all that. But like, he's a special talent. He was a very good junior, and like, he mixed it with all the big names when he was younger. And obviously, as I called out that record, he's won everything in kickboxing. And the fact that he got that injury meant that the Olympic dream was over, and he can go pro boxing. Not even that it was selfish. He probably would have come over after the Olympics in August, September time anyway. But it just means that we can get started with him a little bit quicker. But he's so exciting. He's a great lad. Like, he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve and wants to go. And sure, I won't keep him on the leash for too long. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, so sometimes it's hard to keep people on leashes. Obviously, Craig McCarthy being one. He's obviously it's very similar sort of in that way as well. Obviously a signing that sort of has been there for a wee bit now, and he sort of officially then announced it. Obviously returning Katelynn Fen. I was speaking to her in obviously Dan Anderson's gym yesterday. Obviously, I haven't interviewed her yet, but I was sort of saying, like, she made her debut at 18, 19 years of age. She's sort of been away, had an elbow operation, coming back. To think that she's a WBC youth champion. There's a couple of other belts and stuff there involved as well. But like, for what she first started into boxing, what women's boxing is in general now, there's a lot more women boxing there. Like, that 2.0 version that's coming back at Katelynn Fen seems hungry, seems fresh, seems excited. Obviously, I know there's fight news obviously about to drop for Katelynn, but I'm not going to obviously get you in the bother and her getting shipped off the card because you're spilling the beans. But I'm sure it's another one as well. You just can't wait to start getting going with.
Yeah, like, as you say, she's a special talent. She's a world medalist, amateur, and she came through like a whirlwind. She had a couple of fights and went into the backyard and came out with 3 belts, including a WBC youth. She's ranked number 11, I think, still with the WBC. And, as I said, she's just so good. And it's a real privilege. I'm absolutely buzzing to have her, and I can't wait for her debut. Obviously, as you said, we won't make any announcements because we let the promoter make the announcement. But like, it's so exciting, and it's an honor and a privilege for her to, like, she spoke with other people, and when we spoke, we clicked and we got on really well, and we continue to get on really well. We're getting to know each other as we go, like, but she's such a great girl. We're very similar in the way we kind of think and the way we approach things, and we talk all the time about plans, and even just even about personal stuff. And if there's bad days and there's good days, it's like with all the lads. You're kind of mentoring, and you're trying to have a relationship, and like, it's great. She's such a great team around her. Like, herself and Shane, our partner, they have business together. Like, they do everything together. He's up and down to Belfast. He trains with her, and it's just great for her to have that stability. And not that she didn't before. Like, obviously she was, everything was brilliant. She just fell out of love with everything. It was just really unfortunate for the set of circumstances that happened when she won her title in, I think it was in COVID, and then she fought again in Luxembourg in COVID, and she never got a chance to actually have the high of celebrating it. I think anybody else who wins a world title, you'd be up on an open top bus around Kildare town. She was able to go for social distance, take away points and say hey, and this was like, so. Then on top of that, with the elbow, was supposed to be a routine thing, ended up being a serious a serious kind of operation that needed to be had, and she lost the love for it. But once she decided to come back, and obviously, as you say, that she's buzzing to be up and dance. She's traveling up and down to Belfast 3 times a week, 2 hours a spin, you know. And I was listening to Dan's interview this morning, and it is, as you say, it's a big compliment for him that she's doing that. She's going up and down. She's making that commitment to herself and to him, you know. And hopefully we see, you know, she'll have a couple of fights and we'll put her back into something a bit heavier, you know, later on in the year. But I'm hoping that the 2.0 is just as good as the first version, you know, because the first version was very good. She's so special, and she was brilliantly coached, and hopefully she continues to be brilliantly coached, and I've no doubt that she will be, because she's buzzing to be up in the gym. She's got a good team around her between Dan and the lads are up there. You know, Owen is there, Connor's there, the young amateur TJ. They're all working together, and they do seem to have a great little bond between them all. And the smile is on her face. That can only be good.
Dan's put heaters into the gym as well, so that makes all the
He's
fighters.
put the heaters in. Yeah, I heard the heater going a few times. Yeah, because it was cold up there.
I guess sort of when we sort of look, you know, there's fighters obviously already have fights and stuff confirmed. Obviously, 4 weeks from now, obviously, the first obviously card of the second card of the year. I'm getting confused with cards already. Obviously, they're coming left, right, and center. But obviously, you have Peter Carr making his debut on the 9th of February. You've also Allan White. You've obviously Allan White on that card as well, and you've Graham McCormick. So what a great start to the year in Dublin. You obviously could have 3 Iain Gaughran fighters out on the one card. Yeah,
it's great because Graham's been off for. We've talked about Peter Carr. I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, everybody's looking forward to seeing what he actually brings to the scene, and we're confident in what he can do. But it's great to have Graham back at the same time. You know, he's been desperately unlucky in the way things have ended up. He obviously lost that fight to Craig, where everybody kind of has their own version of events, and kind of the slip and the knockdown and the close decision and all that kind of stuff. But that's done now. But he's been a long time out of the ring since that was April the 9th last year. He was obviously due to fight Dom on the September show. That fell through. Then he had the date with Kieran Geth for the British Celtic. That's fallen through a number of times. That appears to be now back on the horizon. But he's going to get out and he'll have a 4-rounder. He'll blow off a bit of cobwebs. But he feels and looks, and I think you can tell by him that he's buzzing. That year out he hasn't slowed down. He hasn't really stopped. And what it might have done is that he's possibly improved. And I'm looking at him on the pads in some of the clips he's sending me and all that. I'm kind of going, do you look like you've probably improved? And whatever he's done and all that work that's been going on behind the scenes, he's sharpened, and he really does feel fresh for an old man. You know, what's he now, 43 or something like that? I think he's pushing 37. I don't think he's quite 37 yet. But
I wouldn't like to be Graham McCormick, if you're watching this, you better give Iain Gaughran abuse for calling you 43.
he sends me clips every so often, you know, these 51-year-old fighters and all that all around the world. Every time there's one, he sends the thing. I was like, no, we are not playing this game for another 15 years. Like,
obviously, as you say,
that Kieran Geth fight appears to be back on the horizon. They're Mark Pryor, Mo Pryor, Priority Boxing. They're going to put it on, and I think it'll be in Wales. We just need to get the venue and the date finalised, but that's moving back again. In the meantime, he just needs to get out and blow off a little bit of rust and impress and show everybody that, yeah, I'm still here.
See, with the Kieran Geth, and obviously he's had quite a lot of pullouts, you know, throughout his career as a boxer. Even obviously, you know, where you think it might be back on again. Obviously, I know Graham's a bit skeptical as well. Are you skeptical that the fight will happen? Obviously, with obviously, I think the last time he fell off a bike, you know, sometimes you hear so many different excuses, obviously, on why people pull out of fights. It's like when you were at school and your dog ate your homework. You know, it was like is the fight sort of really happening, sort of thing? Do you think the fight with Kieran Geth will actually happen? Do you believe this time around that everything's there and it'll go through? Like for you as a manager and Graham as a fighter, the last thing you want to do is to start investing in camps for a fight then they not happen.
Yeah, and I do, because having spoken to the promoter as well, he's keen to get it sorted, and he's putting on shows left, right, and centre. So they want to do it in Wales. So Kieran is sorting it. Kieran obviously put that show on that Kerr made his debut on in Abergavenny. So he was putting on shows, and he did have a show fall off. And in fairness, that wasn't anything to do with himself. That was one lad got injured, and then I think there was a COVID and something else that happened, and there was a brain scan with somebody else. When your three top fights fall off, it's very hard for a show to continue. You know, I think that was one of them. And then obviously he had the accident. So I am, when I talk to him, I don't get a bad vibe off it. You know, I believe him when he says, yeah, look, it's in play. And it was only yesterday we were talking, and he kind of sent me a version of a poster and stuff that he had already done. Like, he came back straight away with the reply. It wasn't as though he could have just dickied it up in those 30 seconds, you know. So I believe him when he says that it's happening. But until it does, we keep Graham busy. You know, Graham's going to have his fight on February 9th. He'll get back out. Hopefully he's impressive. Hopefully he looks as good as he feels. And then we can kick on, because it's still sanctioned. It's still on the British Boxing Board of Control circular yesterday that it was still, so that hasn't gone away. You know, so I spoke to the promoter and I spoke to Kieran, and they all seem to be all systems go. So fingers crossed.
And obviously moving on from then, obviously on anything else that's been announced sort of so far, 5 weeks today, you have another two fighters. Like, it's Iain Gaughran fighters are all over every card at the moment. You've Conor Kerr, and you've Dave Ryan obviously returning from injury on the Mark Dunlop Fists of Fury card in Belfast. Probably in some ways, like, Conor Kerr hasn't put a foot wrong since turning over. I know he's only 2 4-rounders. I believe this can be a 6-rounder. But obviously, Dave Ryan returned after injury. Like, you probably had to tell him to stay out of the gym at times whilst he was recovering. But obviously, it's another great two fighters you have in the stable you can get behind, and sort of they're going to excite people. You know, they have that sort of thing about them that they're just excitable.
Yeah, Conor was one of the positives of 23. Dave, for the first half of 2023, was a major positive, and then he was a negative for the second half because he got the injury. I think he got the injury in the Galway
show.
Show. And he fought in Cork after that. Was Cork before or after that? When he's impressed every time he's fought, and it was kind of going, this is going to be a stoppage, and then never materialized to a stoppage. And he's like, my hand, I've got a problem. He tried everything to find the solution until it became, it needs just rest. Simple, don't punch. And for someone like Dave, who's an absolute workhorse, cardio machine, loves to work. That was hard for him. But in hindsight, it's turned out to be great because he's got the swagger back. He's been sparring with the likes of Paddy Donovan, sparring with Myles, and I'm hearing, like, Shaun is reporting back. Shaun Kelly's reporting back, and he's saying, "Look, I'm delighted with where he is." You know, a year ago when he sparred with Paddy, you know, he wasn't throwing enough at Paddy. He showed Paddy way too much respect. But now he's in there and he's actually having decent spars with absolutely a potential world champion. You know, Paddy Donovan. And if you're starting to hold your own a little bit with Paddy, and you're starting to come on from where you were, it shows the potential that Dave has. He will also be fresh now. You know, he's had 6-7 months off, and while he went quickly, I think he had 4 fights in the space of kind of 6.5-7 months from November through to June. Yeah. And it was all like that. And that he's had 2 6-rounders. Like, he would be ready after one fight. Like, if the Sen and Kelly opportunity had come in, say, April or even March, that would have been fine. But because Dave had the 6 and 7 months out, you're not going to throw him in with the likes of Sen and Kelly for a Celtic title off the back of such a layoff and off an injury. So he would have been the ideal and the perfect opponent for Senan, and Dave sells well, so that could have been a huge fight. But like, Senan's got his Celtic title fight now, and hopefully he wins, and we can set that up for either if it's going to be the Irish title or if Katelynn defends his Celtic title, because Dave's ready to step up to 8. We would have potentially put him on for 8 here, but I know it's a shortened down kind of build because it's on the same night as the Fury Usyk card. So there was talk that we'd just do an 8-rounder, but then Shaun was going to say, look, there's no mad need to go into an 8-rounder just yet, because coming off the layoff, and let's just work on a few things over 6, get in, get a nice result, and then back into the mix. But like, he's so good. I remember when he fought Dale Arrowsmith, there was a few different changes of opponent and all that. He punched the ears off Dale Arrowsmith. And I know Dale's a journeyman and all. Dale was really complimentary of him. It was kind of like Mark was sitting beside me watching Mark going, Jesus. And Tommy McCarthy, I think, as well. He's like, who's this guy? You know, and Dave got out of the ring. He's like, oh, check a box. You know, so he does have something special about him. And hopefully now that after the 6-7 months off, he can really kick on and certainly win an Irish title and beyond.
I think we sort of pretty much went through. Have we missed anybody in the stable? Well, obviously, we're probably maybe going to have Jimmy Morrissey returning and probably Rudy Farrell returning soon as well. I guess, obviously, in some ways, you know, for both of them lads, obviously, Jamie's had that opportunity, sort of felt sorry for himself, obviously, after, obviously, the defeat to Emmet Brennan. For, obviously, Rudy, I guess, he'd probably feel aggrieved at the fact that, you know, people, obviously, now putting the result up, people were saying, call it how it is. You know, I'm never going to claim I'm a judge or anything else, but I thought that obviously Rudy, you know, I sort of watched it back since, but when you know the score, it's hard then to watch something back and go, I can see this. Like I could probably see reasons why Hugh Russell might have scored as a draw. I might have seen it as a fight of 2 halves, but from when I was there watching it ringside, it was a 4-2-5-1 sort of fight, you know. But I think when you know the result, when you try and watch something back and try and critique it, you know, 4, 5, and 6 definitely were all Rudy's rounds, and whether
I don't know how he didn't pick up any of the first 3 rounds. I thought he won round 2 quite clearly. 1 and 3 were tight. How 1 or 3 wasn't a 10-10 even. You know, I know some people don't like scoring 10-10s, but like, they were razor sharp rounds. I thought he won 2 clearly. He absolutely won 4, 5, and 6. But credit to Ger, you know, he stuck in there, and he's a little warrior, like, and he's obviously made a move. I only spoke to him Thursday, I think, and we were kind of talking about what's his plans, and we're looking at a rematch. But he's with Pete Taylor a week, and to be fair, you know, you can't expect him to jump straight into a rematch off a fight that he was a little bit. You know, everybody seems to be of the opinion that he was beaten in the fight. It was a draw, so that's the end of it. It's the same with Graham and Craig, you know. The result is the result, nothing's going to change now. But I'm no doubt that people offer something different, and we'll see a different Jerry Hughes when they do fight, you know. And he's a great fella. I've loads of time for Jerry. Like, there was all the shite and all in the build-up and all that, but, you know, behind all that is a good lad and a good fighter. So he'll certainly have 1 fight under Pete, and then we might rematch. He could have 2. It's always there, but we really won't be sitting around waiting at the same time either. There has been an offer for a fight in Scotland, maybe in the kind of springtime.
Is that for Rudy, is it?
Yeah. There's a Scottish lad over there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say the name. I don't know if the promoter was wanting to, but there is a potential offer for Rudy to fight in Glasgow, and it would probably be looking at a British Celtic. No one holds the super bantamweight one, and once he gets back, he's going to be out as well. He'll be out quite soon. That's to be announced, but it looks like Jay's happy for him to fight on one of the shows, and he'll get back out. Just keep busy, and we'll move on again, because he's one of them. Like, he'll probably just have a 4-rounder just to make sure, you know, he's staying active. But he's one of them that would be better off having 8-rounders and 10-rounders. But obviously, with that becomes a cost, you know. So you can't just be paying 8-round journeyman and 10-round journeyman, especially if you're just going to be, you know, it's fine if you're going to be on a Conlon bill or a matchroom bill, and, you know, they have you penciled in for a Commonwealth title or whatever, and they're going to pay you to do 8 rounds and pay for your opponent. But when you're trying to sell tickets and you're selling 100 tickets, it doesn't make sense to be forking out for 8 and 10 round journeymen. But there is a potential offer on the table for maybe kind of April, May time. And Jay's got the show in the Devonish on April the 6th as well. So Rudy's more than happy to fight in that. If we can do something for that, great. If the Scottish thing happens at some stage over the year, but he just wants to keep busy, and we will keep him busy because he's playing. He's not just a big, tall, rangy, and did a lot of very good work. And he's only 23. Like, there's no fucking mad rush. No, he's mad to go. It's like, just chill out. You've loads of time. It's not like it's Graham and he's 58 or whatever. So I'm excited to see what he does. We'll keep him busy. Same applies for Jamie. Jamie's going to return as well. Obviously off the back of the Emmet Brennan defeat, he'll come back and have a 4-rounder. Just much calmer waters. Like he had, he had Berkey, then he had the layoff through, I think it was COVID and an injury and just inactivity. Then he had Seamus Devlin, Ben McGivern, Cronin, Brennan. He's had 5 domestics and 6 fights, bar his debut. So he deserves to be able to have something that he can just go in and have 4 or 6 rounds of boxing of someone who's not coming to take his head off. We'll do that back to super middleweight. Craig McCarthy and Kevin Cronin doesn't really look like it's happening. Kevin's moved on to Conlon boxing, and fair play to him. Great for him and his career, and good signing from Conlon's. Big fan of Kevin. But if that's not happening, why don't we just do Jamie and Craig? Jamie is the previous Celtic title holder. He's proved himself. He's obviously had an Irish title fight already. Emmet and Cronin could end up getting it on between Conlon and Matchroom. That could be a fight that they make or something. But in the meantime, if Neil Power's putting on a show in Waterford, or if Craig wants to travel to bloody anywhere, like, there's not going to be a show in Limerick, so it's not like he's going to be going into Jamie's backyard. We can do it in Dublin, we can do it in Belfast, we can do it in Cork, we can do it anywhere. Jamie's more than happy to fight Craig, and he's happy to do it in Waterford, because as far as Jamie was concerned, he was the Celtic 168 champion, and he went up because the BUI wanted him and Kevin to fight at light heavy. He's a super middleweight. Granted, he's been beaten by Emmet, but he comes right back into the mix with 1 win, just like Kevin did when he had his fight off the back of the Jamie draw. So, like, if that fight's not being made and Kevin and Emmet and all are moving on to different kind of areas, why not make Jamie and Craig?
Was that the reason behind you getting them obviously a fight so soon into the year, sort of, so you can go to the BUI and say, he's obviously won these belts to both weights. He obviously lost Emmet Brennan. He's come back with a win. What's going on with this? I think everybody, Craig and Kevin obviously as well, you can see that people are starting to get annoyed. And I've seen Emmet obviously mentioning things as well. Like, that was last June. That fight was sanctioned. That was next for Irish title. Yes, it's tried to be made in September. The card fell through, unfortunately. But what's happening now is the last thing you want is a queue. You've obviously other fighters can come into the mix there as well. You've Tommy Hydes that can come into the mix. He's obviously at his shows and stuff in Cork. But obviously the BUI need to give a direction somewhere to go. What's going on? Is this still the fight that's going to happen at super middleweight, or can something else happen? Like, you could end up having Emmet Brennan and Craig McCarthy safe for the Irish title. You just don't know what's happening. But I think the BUI need to give people direction somewhere as to what's happening.
Yeah, and maybe Emmet or maybe Craig is holding on for Emmet, because he knows what Emmet has the potential to bring insofar as the matchroom element of it. If they're going to come back for the Katie thing in early May or whatever it is, if that starts to go ahead, maybe Craig's kind of thinking, I'll fight Emmet Brennan. I would like to think that Jamie done enough to be able to get himself another shot at a big card, but he, obviously, as you said, it was very raw after the defeat, and it was kind of like, oh, where do I go from here? But after a few days and after a week or two, when he took a little bit of time off and you realize what he's achieved in such a short space of time, he was like, let's go. Get me back out kind of February, March time, and let's go again. We'll hunt whoever we need to hunt. In the meantime, he said, like you said the other day, like, let some of these lads fight each other as well. He's done all the fighting. He's fought Cronin twice. Went over to Benz. He fought Berkey. He fought Emmet. He's had 4 Irish domestics and a Celtic domestic. So if they want to fight, let them fight, and we'll fight the winner. So I like what I'm hearing from him again. He's got the enthusiasm back, and he will be announced on a show quite soon too, probably in the next week or so, I'd say. So that's a nice one. Myles Casey, we spoke at the time. I think the last time. That's finally. Oh well, hasn't got his license approved. His medicals are done, and his applications and contracts and stuff went in yesterday. So I imagine he wouldn't need to be seen for a spar. He's an elite champion. He's sparred with the likes of Jazza. He sparred with Katie and helped her prepare for big fights. He'll debut quite soon, and he'll move quick. He's 29. He's not one kind of really to hang around. He'd probably be a super bantamweight as well. So all of a sudden, there's a bit of a super bantamweight scene again. Like we had Dylan McDonough and Carl McDonald a few years ago. That was it. Now we've got Rudy, Ger, Connor potentially, Myles. There's a good scene down at the lower weights all of a sudden. So that's good. Looking forward to him because he's obviously very, very good. And the better the opponent, the better he will be. Just like Connor. I know we spoke a little bit about Connor, but he's going to have a 6-rounder, and that'll be the same thing. This will be the last of his kind of standard journeyman fights. We'll step him up in the levels too, because he's ready for it. He's late 20s. He's peaking, and it's ready for a step up after this. He'll be 3-0. He'll have done a 6, and then we look for an opponent.
So we're just picking us back up with Iain. Unfortunately, as we do sometimes, we like to talk, and obviously Zoom only gives us a 40-minute window. For unfortunately, I love the older days of Zoom because they weren't so much focused on keeping you the 40-minute limit. They would probably give you a reminder 40 minutes was coming up, and then they let you carry on. I think I was speaking to Dan Anderson. Obviously, his was a long.
Well, Dan's interview yesterday was 48 or something, so I'm not quite gonna make it to 48.
But I remember obviously having ones with Leonard Gunnan obviously in the past, and between the interview and obviously speaking and things like that, on Zoom, like there are 3 hours approaching. So thankfully we're long past them sort of levels now. But we'd I think we'd just sort of maybe we're just about to touch on obviously the one that we'd sort of forgot, obviously in the stable. And it was obviously as if there's no malice or anything to it, I guess.
No, I hadn't forgotten.
You won't forget, but I guess it probably would have been easy for me to forget when you have so many fighters, so much news, so many fight cards and stuff been announced recently. Obviously, we obviously forgot. Well, I'd cast in mind, obviously James Freeman as well. He's had 2 fights. Obviously, I guess that's another great positive they obviously have this year. He's had 2 fights, sold a lot of tickets. Obviously, he's had an injury obviously recently, but I'm sure you'll be delighted to get James back out again in 2024.
Yeah, pro debut of the year contender with irishboxing.com. Bought Jordan Grant in a bit of a firefight with one hand because he'd broken his hand in the build-up, but he wasn't letting his supporters down. He brought 35-40 grand worth of tickets of people to the Odyssey, and he was the bloody swing bout. So he ended up on late at night, having hung around all day, and still ended up as a pro debut of the year contender. Then he fought again in the Phelan, and he's just had a couple of niggles. He had the hand injury that was similar to Dave Ryan, and he had a break. James had the break in the hand, but he was basically told, do not punch anything. You can shadow box and do a little bit of pad work and that or like paddle work. But aside from that, no full force. He also had I think it was a nerve problem in his calf that was affecting his movement as well. But, and like I say, with the negative comes the positive. For somebody who was such a raw novice to boxing and certainly to the program, he's been able to work on a lot of things behind the scenes, to be able to quickly get himself up to speed to where he wants to be, like his movement, like his footwork. And he's been up with Iain Mahood, and he's doing plenty of work behind the scenes. So he'll be ready to return. Hopefully he'll feature on that April show that Jay's talking about doing up in the Devonish. Because, like I said, he's exciting. He talks great. He looks good. He's ripped as shit. And he can bang. So he's had 2 good fights. and hopefully he'll have 3 or 4 in 2024, and we'll get him up to a position where when Iain feels he's ready, that he can step up to a domestic level. He's a great fella, really professional, does everything great, works hard, loads and loads and loads of time for him. And I'm excited to see what he can do, because he came in like a whirlwind and it just got halted on him because of the injury, similar to what happened to Dave. But he won't hang around either. He's a good showman, and he brings a lot of arses on seats, so he's very good. Obviously, he made his debut on a Mick undercard, then he fought at the Phelan because people can see what his value is, So I know he did good numbers on his interviews with you as well, I think, didn't he? So he does have the overall package, and he's got pretty much a lot of power in that right hand as well. Once everything is healed up,
is it probably? I guess when you've had that high of obviously making your debut on a McCormick card in the SSE, you then obviously fought an outdoor thing in the Phelan. Not discrediting any venues or any promoters or anything else like that, but it's been able to get James up for these smaller. He
wants to, and he wants to get to a level where he's headlining small shows in that real atmosphere, like a Devonish and the Ulster Hall and the Warehouse down here, because he knows the value of what it is. Because fair enough, that ultimate high of fighting in the likes of an Odyssey and the big outdoor show, but James is a very clever fella, and he knows what the levels are and knows what he can bring to different venues. If we put a show on in Armagh or whatever, that'd be gone. Do 1,000, no problem. And that's the kind of thing he wants to do. He wants to be flying the flag for Armagh boxing between himself and Fergus Quinn. Two good lads who could probably bring a show there. So he's got loads of value and loads of talent, and I'm looking forward to seeing him back.
I guess in some ways, sometimes the fighter, and obviously we've seen it similar before with Owen O'Neill. Obviously, people just regard him as being a ticket seller, and it gets to that stage. And I think Paddy McCrory was the same. Obviously, it gets to the stage where it gets annoying for a fighter because they don't want to be known as a ticket seller. Probably for James, he obviously wants to now go and learn the ropes of obviously the smaller shows, have the potential to obviously headline these smaller shows, but then the opportunity still can be there for the bigger shows because he sells the tickets. But he probably wants to be known and get the opportunities for the bigger shows on the talent he has as a boxer, rather than just somebody sees the commercial value and going, James Freeman will put him in the card because he'll sell 40, 50 grand of tickets. He probably wants to
get O'Neill is a great example of building up somebody to exactly what you've just said. Owen is 12-0 and a Celtic champion, was due to fight for an Irish title, and obviously we know a lot of shit happened and he missed a weight. But there's no harm following that blueprint for James. Main event in smaller hall shows, build himself up, getting a title and going to the next step. Because he certainly has it in him. So that's what we're going to do.
I know.
I'd be happy to be directed by Iain as to where he feels and when he feels James is ready to step up to a stronger level opponent or something a bit more domestic.
I know we said we're having to do this again with the last one cutting off. We weren't going to leave it too long. I guess obviously we're going to have other interviews and things throughout the year, but where do you sort of, you've obviously a potential new signing on the way there with Myles Casey. Where do you sort of see 2024? With obviously 15 shows last year, we're probably maybe looking maybe of the same, if not, I'd say we're probably a bit more at the very least. We could potentially have double that, this year if things keep going the way they are. Where do you sort of see the year? Do you hope they obviously get, other opportunities for your fighters on these bigger cards again? The potential of obviously Katie and Cameron 3 in May in either the Aviva or Croke Park. Do you now look to that next opportunity, getting somebody on another big matchroom card? Or you look to a Frank Warren card? Do you look to a boxer card? Are you trying now to get another opportunity to show that 2023 wasn't a fluke?
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much the aspiration, to continue to work with the people that we have good relationships with, the Marks, the Jays, people around the place who we've already established and that we have built the trust with, who we know that we can bring people to their bills and they'll put on a show. But also, and I think it's fair now to that no one can kind of make any little kind of accusations around about the stable. We take fights. You know, we don't duck away from fights. We don't shy away from challenges. Look at Jamie. Look at Graham. You know, look what Katelynn has the potential to be. Like there's talk of, I know there's soon to be announced whoever else is going to be on the same bill. There's a couple of girls going to be on the same bill that she's going to be returning on, and there is the potential for her to fight. Now she's already won world titles, but the first female Irish champion is a nice little kind of carrot that's been dangled out in front. There are potential opponents there. There's one in particular. I won't go and mention any names, but that's something that we've spoken about. For her to be Ireland's first professional women's champion, on top of everything else she's achieved, is a goal. Jamie to get back and get another shot at an Irish title. Graham the same. Dave will step up into Celtics. You know, Peter will hopefully smash through the ceiling. Connor's the same. Like what we have in the stable all have the potential to have huge years. You know, every single one of them have the potential by the end of the year to be fighting for titles. Even Peter,
that'd be great, Iain. That'd be great for the end of the year. We have obviously a picture, and every one of the stable are all champions. You know, and there's Iain Gaughran boxing, the home of champions.
Yeah, like that's the big dream. You know, that's obviously it would be a monumental achievement to get everybody in the stable to have a belt around their waists on some level. But what we want to do is continue to further careers and to give these lads and girls opportunities to be able to achieve what they've set out to achieve. And that's all it is for me, really. Like, I don't do any of the training with them. I don't mess with tactics or any of that kind of stuff. I talk to people, build the relationships with promoters and managers and matchmakers and all that, and get them the opportunities. But once they're there, that's on them, you know. And thankfully, no one has ever shied away from it. You know, everybody wants to step up and everybody wants to have a challenge within reason. No one's going to go in and take a stupid fight just for the sake of a few quid or whatever, you know. But you look at Jamie. Jamie didn't have to take the Emmet Brennan fight. He did. Like, that's the kind of benchmark that we are. Katelyn's the same. She's under no illusions that she's been out of the ring for a while. She wants to have a couple of fights. But straight away, she's like, I'm coming. Like, she doesn't go as far as saying, let all them bitches know I'm coming. But she's like, we're back, you know, and I'm ready to step up on what I've already achieved. And that's the kind of attitude that everybody has. You know, Rudy's kind of saying, no more flipping around. I want titles. I want to move on. You know, everybody's the same. We all have that one goal in mind, and everybody rows in together. And you see, even when things are put up on social media, everybody from within the stable, like Peter Carr announcement, everybody's getting on and saying, welcome to the team. You know, everybody's getting on to him privately and saying, you know, best of luck, can't wait to meet you, can't wait to box alongside you, all that kind of stuff. So I think we've got a good stable. I think we've got a stable that's together. And like you say, if everybody gets an opportunity within the next kind of 12 months to have a go at a title, well, then that's job done.
Well, listen, obviously, thank you for coming on and obviously spending quite a majority of your Saturday obviously having an interview. And no doubt we're obviously going to see, obviously,
that's having enough, so it's okay.
Obviously, over the next couple of weeks, no doubt we're obviously going to see you in person again now, but it's always great to get you on for a chat, to get an insight, obviously, into your stable of fighters, and obviously, you know, hopefully these announcements keep coming, the fighters keep building, obviously, in Gaughran brand. But look, obviously, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll no doubt catch up with you very, very soon.
Thanks, Milt. See you soon.
Cheers, Iain. Take care. Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye. Bye.